today I'm going to start to talk a little bit about change, hands-on change management within the Power Platform, within the world of Dynamics, within the world of Power Platform, especially in the larger, complex enterprise environments. So my name is Peter. Did a quick introduction yesterday already. I'm solution architect. I work at Capgemini in the Netherlands. I am the Power Platform lead there, and I also do lots of Microsoft training for the academy that is also in the Netherlands. I love to spend some time with the family. So a beautiful wife, 2 kids. Love spending time in the theme parks in Orlando. But also, as I said, living in the Netherlands, so used to the rainy weather here. Let's talk a little bit about change. So as it takes a village to deliver successful Power Platform projects, and that is actually true, right? We need a lot of people in a lot of different roles to actually make our project successful. I want to take you through these things. So why are we actually doing change, right? And obviously, we want those projects to be successful. What is Prosci, which is a very pragmatic way of doing change? It's the change framework that Microsoft also promotes. We're talking a little bit about some assessments called PCT and ADKAR, the roles in change management, how plans can help you do that. And also at the end, we're talking a little bit about resistance and how we can put this into practice. This is a very pragmatic approach, meaning that I got lots of tools and assessments and PDFs and fillable things that I want to share with you afterwards. If you need more, or if you want to get more stuff to help you on that, please reach out. That's also fine. I'm going to take you through a lot of examples that I experienced in my career as a consultant, change manager, solution architect. That hopefully also gives you that perspective that me as an experienced person also drop the ball sometimes, which is absolutely fine, right? I hope that those experiences will give you some insights in how quickly some people can overlook something that determines the successful outcome of your project. So let's start out with why change management and how we change successfully. Successful change doesn't happen just at a technical level, right? For that, you always need the people too. You need the people who embrace the change, who adopt the solutions, and who actually use them. So we can only get from that current state to the desired state in a good way when we have both ends, both sides right? And this is the technical side is what we usually do pretty well. As IT companies, we're pretty good at designing and developing and delivering our solutions. We got great project managers that carry out that technical side, but the people side is often overlooked. And I dare to say that the people side might even be more important than the technical side. Meaning that if you build awesome stuff on the technical side, but there's no one to actually use it properly, or you build something that no one needs, how successful is your project, right? So when we talk about organizational change, we're talking about moving from the current situation to that future situation. Of course, there's a transition state in the middle. But that requires all of the individuals to move through those phases. And the thing is, if we leave people behind, if we don't get everyone on board, you'll see that people are getting left in a transition state and that we end up with like some grated cheese or Swiss cheese in the future, right? And this is really dangerous because it is crucial to a successful project to get as many people as we can to that future state, because we end up with a less than successful project at the end. And you can easily see that Swiss cheese future state, because what we end up with is a lower ROI, a lower return on investment, right? We set out, we built that beautiful system, we built it, the greatest thing ever seen, but no one is using it, so we got a lower return on investment. But worse, we add to the history of failed change. And this is one that is, well, mostly overlooked and really underestimated, but is a really important one because the history of failed change makes people want to do a future change or don't want to do a future change, right? What I hear, if I come in at a company that is very resistant to change, they often have a history of failed changes in the past few years. So they just tell me straight out, well, I see you coming in. I'm already filled up to the brim with work, right? Don't ask me for anything. I have no time for you. You're going to be gone in 3 months when the project is done, and I'm just going to be here, right? So I'll move a little bit to the left, I'll move a little bit to the right, and if you're gone, I'm still in the exact same space, right? Which is very harsh, but it's the actual truth, and that's the effect of that history of failed change. So we want that future state to be successful so we can break that cycle. Obviously, it's also improvements not achieved, right? We set out to get some production, to some productivity improvements, to get some more smooth processes, to shorten the customer journey. Obviously, if you're not succeeding, the improvement is not achieved. And then we get something that no one expected or no one hoped, right? In the end, it's very fast users. Right? Very sad users is the worst thing that can happen because we, at least I, would like to think that I'm working for the end users and not so much as the customers who are paying me, right? We're trying to get that result for the end users. Obviously, everything has to align in front of that. So there's a bunch of avoidable costs and mitigatable risks that interfere or that correspond with that change management. If we do not do change management on the project level well, we get overruns of the budget, we get rework required, perhaps it's even put on hold, we got really a whole lot of resistance. On the organization level, we see also things happening, especially moral declines, impact on the customers, right? There's change saturation, as I already said, and change fatigue, right? So if we do not deliver the results, obviously it's waste, right? It's wasting capacity, it's wasting people, it's wasting money. All of that stuff could be avoided by doing change properly. As I said, we have a definition of success, which consists of two parts, mainly the objectives on the organizational part and the organizational benefits and the project objectives, right? And those things go hand in hand, but require a little bit of a different way of solving. And that all starts out with connecting the 4Ps, connecting the people to success, right? It's an easy sheet. It's just writing things down like what is the project? And as I said yesterday already, there's a great Sean Sean, well in the community, has a nice program for solution architects. It's on Terra 365. He talks a lot about the money questions, and those come in handy here. So what you see is that we want to determine what is the actual project. Is it a project that we want to do? Is it a project where there's a problem that we can actually solve? Is it a problem that we should solve? Is it this time that we should solve it? What happens if we don't do it? What happens if we do it later? Right? Why are we changing now? Right? So what's the project? What's the purpose? What is going to be changing? Right? Is it just the particulars? Is it the tools? Is it the system? Is it perhaps a location of people? Or is it the people with their job roles themselves? If we do not describe these properly, we don't know where people are going to change and how we can help. So putting this down is a really easy exercise, but is really helpful. And this starts out with the change manager. This starts out with talking to people. This starts out with your sponsor, right? Just having these conversations will help you put this down. And that is the framework for managing with those particulars. So what changes for whom? How big is it? Prosci says we can change on 10 different spectrums. We can change on 10 different items. Could be processes, could be systems, could be tools, but could also be the location or the compensation. And just to give you an example on this is where I had a really great project. I did a project for a municipality on Dynamics. I thought I had covered change really well. Everything was going great. I think I put everything into place. And then when we got to the phase where we were done, we had a bunch of people that were really unhappy, especially one lady. She was just a poison pill. She was like, I don't like any of this. I'm going to go back. I wish you were never here. Like literally that kind of negative sentiment. And when we start talking to her, right, what is happening? Why are you so reluctant to use it? What is actually, is there something that we can help? Just prying and having that conversation over and over again revealed that it was nothing that had to do with the system. The thing that she was so unhappy about was her changing places. So she was sitting next to her friend for the last 20 years, and now she had to move floors, right? So it was insane that it had nothing to do, but we didn't tackle that well. So let's talk about that Prosci framework. So Prosci has 3 phases. It has the approach phase, in which we have a sponsorship plan, we have a people manager plan, we have a communication plan. And if we're talking about these plans, the plans don't mean that it's like a 20-page thing, right? It's just a plan on a page. It's really small. It's really easy to do. And I'll give you examples of those in the end. I got a nice Excel sheet which covers everything there. This is the phase where we define what the success of a project is, right? So if we deliver this, is it going to be considered a success? Right? What is the impact on people? How do we approach the people? How we tackle all those problems? In the second phase, this is usually where the IT development is in, right? So this is where we build the project, where we normally do all of the IT stuff, the delivery. But on the change management side, we want to focus on getting some training done, getting some demos done, getting some assessment, steering, do some steering if we're not able to get everyone on board, or if we see something moving in the right direction or in the wrong direction. There's also coaching and resistance sessions there, right? And then finally, we're at the sustain phase. And sustain phase is really making sure that people keep using the right tools, keep doing the right things, sustaining the outcomes, transferring the ownership of the things that we just did. And we want to do some assessment at the end as well to make sure that everyone is happy with the things that we delivered, because otherwise we might need to do a follow-up project. And in the middle of it is the ADKAR circle. And the ADKAR stands for the individual side of change. So literally the individual change of a specific person. We got the triangle. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. That is the organizational change, and the ADKAR in the middle is the personal, the individual change of that. So if we're talking about the organizational change, we're talking about a triangle to success. We got different dimensions. We got the leadership, we got the project management, we got the change management, and usually they have to talk to each other. They have to work with each other, and how they work with each other is different for each role. So if we talk about change management with leadership, the change management have to make sure that the leadership is active and visible, and they help building a coalition of sponsors within the company to actually get to that success state. We have to teach them how to communicate properly and at what times they have to communicate. We're talking about change management and project management. We're talking about people and processes and tools. How can we help leverage that? How can we make sure that we can build the things that people are actually in need of, right? Usually we only do this part. I'm not saying that any company does that. I'm saying that in the bigger IT companies that I work with, we often tend to forget about success. We often tend to forget about change. That is not always on the IT integrator, right? In a lot of examples, a lot of really big enterprise projects, we see that customers say, I will do change management myself, right? I don't need dedicated change management. I will do change management myself. And then they will get someone from marketing in, or someone from communication in, or they will line up a project manager to do change. That is absolutely the worst way of doing change, right? And perfectly fine with all of those people, but those are not the people who actually get what needs to be done, right? So beware if people say, hey, I'm going to do change myself. Just ask some questions on, hey, did you think about this? Are you aware that this needs to be happening, right? Because your success as a IT developer or an architect or an IT company depends on having successful change management. If you're not in control, at least verify. If we can do that ourselves, one way of doing that is by doing assessments. And assessments in the Prosci methodology are really nice. It's really pragmatic. It's just a sheet of paper, a PDF that you can fill in that gives you some output and some insights right away. These assessments, like this PCT triangle, I just put a little part of it on screen, also are a great way to start that conversation with your sponsor, right? So just asking like, hey, does this project has a clearly defined scope, right? Makes people think, oh, do I actually have that, right? Is there a project manager assigned for the whole project lifecycle? Well, yeah, probably, right? Just by filling this in, you'll get to a PCT triangle that really immediately says, well, you need to put some focus on this. I can absolutely guarantee you that when you start out with a project, that most of these things are going to be red, right? Perhaps one is green, which is fine, because that is the thing that you want to have that discussion about and that you want to change. We also fill in a small risk assessment. Also, a scoring from 1 to 5. It's really easy. That will plot the risk of that gives you some insight on, is it really necessary to do change at this level, right? Do I need an extensive change plan, or can I do with some elements out of this change methodology? And you'll see here that if you have a large disruptive change, that is for a business critical app for the whole organization, but the organization is change resistant, you'll be in the higher risk quadrant, right? Meaning that you really should do change at a professional, extensive level. If you're on the low risk, if it's a small change and everyone is happy to do it, then you might not even need it. Just take some communication parts out of it, right? But this quiz gives you a really quick insight in if it's really necessary to do it, which is awesome. And then obviously you also want to manage that personal change. Everyone on the project, also the managers, but every one of the project members and the users have to go through these 5 stages. We got awareness, we got desire, we got knowledge, we got ability, and reinforcement. If we start out with awareness, why do we need to change? Does everyone understand why that change is happening now? Does everyone understand why we do it in the first place? What if we don't do it? What happens? Am I going to lose my job? Is the company going to go bankrupt? Or perhaps nothing happens, right? That flows directly into that next phase, the desire. If you want people to get on board, if you want people to say, I decided to support this change, right? The trigger words here are what's in it for me, what are the personal motivators, or what are the organizational motivators? People need to understand why we're doing this, right? So these phases are sequential. That means that you can't put effort into getting more of a desire from people if the awareness is not properly handled, right? So these elements need to be at a certain level before you continue over to put focus on the next one. From desire, if people are on board, you want to know, you want to teach them how, right? You want to say, what are we going to do? What's the knowledge that what you're doing? This K phase, the knowledge phase and the ability phase, coincide with the actual delivery most of the time, right? With some sprints. So we supply the knowledge that they need. That flows into ability, which is a little bit different, right? Because I can give you all of the e-learnings and all of the sessions and demos that and the manuals that I have, but it could be that you're still not able to actually use it, right? And then it's also not going to be a successful change. To give you an example, I worked for the high voltage grid operator in the Netherlands, and we did some really great apps for field service agents. We built a mobile app, really easy to handle, big buttons. I thought it was great. And then we had people, we dumped all of the knowledge on them, all of the how-tos, and then people were stuck in the ability phase. And that was because those people are field technicians. They are really good with high voltage power systems, but they were not great with smartphones, right? And those people were a little bit older. They didn't know how to handle it properly. So we needed to focus and we needed to get them to a certain level that they could actually handle it. It had nothing to do with the system on its own. It had nothing to do with the IT of that system, right? But to get that successful outcome, you want people to be able to use it, and you have to give some focus on that. And of course, in the end, you want to sustain that phase. You want to do some reinforcement. You want people to keep doing the good things, to lock in that good behavior, right? Because if you don't, people will go back to that shadow IT, right? A great way of actually doing some sustainment, some reinforcement, is by closing down the roads to the old systems, right? So that's one way of doing it. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. What is good to remember is that the organizational outcomes are a collective result of individual change, right? Everyone has to go through that change if they want it or not, and only then can you be successful as an organization. But remember that people are not changing at the same pace. So the phases that we just saw, the awareness and the desire and the knowledge and ability, some people, like Kavada in this case, is starting out really early with some awareness and desires. He's on board, knowledge is okay, but then the ability takes a long time. Well, Raheem starts out later and is done earlier, right? If you look at this, it's a very open door to most people. But what this actually says is that if we say we're going to do a demo on this specific time and we're going to teach you how to use it at this specific time, right? Let's say I'm going to give demos here because Kevin was there, right? You can see that Raheem doesn't even know why he's supposed to do this, right? And it's going to be met with resistance, is not going to be there. He's not yet in the desire phase that we want him to be. So if you acknowledge that people change at different paces, we also want to deal with the learning a little bit different. And of course, you're going to have demos, but perhaps you have multiple demos, right? At times that people are actually able to retain information and are on board with it. Right? The ACAR model scales out. So you can take one person or 5 person, 20 people or 1,000 people, or as I'm on a project now, 18,000 people, right? And obviously asking them, so the ADCAR assessment is also something that you fill in, that you talk to people like, hey, how are you on this change? How far along are you on the desire, right? Just having those conversations with a few questions, that works really well. If you do Prosci has a great online tool portal with some survey material in there as well, with pre-made assessments that you can send out and that get all of the responses get back to you in one really great dashboard. Obviously, you can do that, but you can also just put paper tags next to the coffee machine and saying, I want to score it like that, right? You decide how you're going to do this, or take a sample set out of every targeted group, every group that needs changing, HR or finance or just the operations. Just take a few people out of that group and ask them, right? It starts with having the conversation, which is absolutely the most important. And then we get to the roles. If we talk about roles in change management, we got 2 enabling roles, 2 employee-facing roles. The project manager, we all know, right? That's the guy that we need, that we have in IT. We have the change practitioner. That's the one that we're talking about now. And then we got two roles on this side, which is sponsor and people manager. The sponsor is usually the guy or person who is authorizing the change, who orders the change, who signs the check, right? Who is in that ivory tower talking down why we actually need this stuff, right? What we want from them is that they fulfill three key roles: be active, build a coalition with us, and communicate directly. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a sec. Then we have the people manager, and the people manager are usually the people who are the direct managers, direct line managers, right? So the team captain, the cluster lead, or something like that. The people the people manager is someone that the rest of the organization trusts, right? They know the name of their kids. They've worked with them for 5 years. Those are our preferred senders, right? Because no one believes me. If I come in, everyone distrusts me. There's a guy coming in, a consultant. He's here for just a few weeks or just a few months, and then they'll be gone, and I'm left with the huge pile of shit, right? If I tell them, if I get on that soapbox and tell them how their world is going to change and how everything is going to be better for them, no one will believe me. Right? I am not the one that should send out that message, but I am the one that can teach other people how to send that message and why we want them to do that in a certain way. So as I said, sponsors, the role in change of a sponsor is to fulfill those ABCs, to actively participate and be visible. That means that we want them to get on that soapbox and talk about, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it now? Right? What happens if we don't? That is on the awareness phase, right? The awareness, to create awareness, we need them to relay why it is important that everyone is getting on board. We want them to also build a coalition, because building a coalition means that sometimes in the company, we need to persuade people that this is actually going to happen. If they like it or not, this is going to happen, right? People will only change for two reasons. Either they see the light or they feel the fire, right? We need that sponsor to help us with that. And they need to communicate directly with employees. If you see a sponsor communicating through a newsletter, that's not going to happen. That's not going to work out, right? If you see a sponsor sending their secretary to sit in and take notes because they can't attend, that is not going to help you get a successful project done, right? There is no such thing as delegated sponsorship, right? If sponsors do not have the time, can happen, right? Sometimes the CEO is a sponsor and they're pulled to 1,000 different projects in the company. If you don't have the time, have them appoint someone else, have them mandate someone else to be our sponsor. Because if they, as a sponsor, are not there and actively participating, you're not going to get a successful outcome. We need them to build that sponsorship map. This is just a part of the sponsor plan. Just draw out who are my stakeholders in this, right? Where are my stakeholders in which region of the company? Which department are they in? And just mark them with a color. Like green is they are on board. Red is, well, they're absolutely not on board, or I haven't contacted them yet, right? That could also be the case. And then yellow is, well, they're on the fence, but they might need some persuasion. As I said, the primary sponsor should help you with that, because you are not the trusted party in this, right? If finance is really mad about getting the system introduced, I can tell them, but it's much stronger if this person says, well, this is going to happen, because if we don't, we won't be a company next year, right? If I tell them that, no one is going to believe me because I don't know anything, right? I need that sponsor to help me out there. That also goes for the people manager, because those people managers, those are the people that employees trust. They are way closer. They've been working with them for years. They know all of their problems. They know about the real things going on in the company and not just the things that I know, right? They can mitigate that resistance. They are the preferred sender. The team manager are not always the most communicative people, right? So it means that they don't have to do this alone. Change managers could coach them. They can craft communications. And of course, I want them to be their authentic selves. So they should do it and convey it in their own way. But we can actually help them because it's not on their radar, right? They don't always see that they should be able to communicate at specific points in time within the project. We want them to perform 5 roles, the Clark roles. I want them to be a communicator, right? Talk to the people. That goes to, it's a two-way street. I want them to be a liaison from the floor to the actual management. I want them to advocate for the people on the floor, but also want them to be a resistant manager and a little bit of a coach. It's not always the case that one person can fulfill all of these 5 roles, right? So sometimes there's a few different people who handle these, but you want them all to be filled because you all need all of these things to be able to get some successful project done. And that is where plans are helping us out in practice. So if we're talking about change, there's a few core plans that are always going to be there, right? The sponsor plan, just saw that. A people manager plan, when I'm going to communicate something, who's going to communicate it, how and why are we going to talk to these people, when are we going to do training, that sort of stuff is just, even in the lightweight change management things, this is what's there, right? What you should have. If you're in that high risk quadrant, you also might want to do extend plans, meaning that sometimes I want to see how can I sustain the actual thing that we're delivering. How can I influence other people to do some change management for me on my behalf? Perhaps I want to onboard pilot groups or super users, right? All of these things are really pragmatic and are also part of that framework. And in the Excel, I'm going to leave you with at the end. These plans affect that ADCAR in different ways, right? So the sponsor is, as I said, much more on the awareness and desire. And of course, at the end, at the reinforcement phase, the people managers go throughout because they are that trusted sender throughout the whole process. And communication really focuses more on the awareness and the reinforcement. Doesn't mean that they're not present in the middle, right? But you want to emphasize their role and the front and in the end. And of course, training goes to knowledge and ability, right? Let's talk a little bit about resistance. So resistance is twofold. Primarily, we want to prevent resistance because it's a whole lot easier to prevent it in the first place than to handle it when it's actually there, right? So we got resistance prevention and we got resistance response. Resistance prevention is really about listening to people, right? Listening to their stories, listening to what moves them, what motivates them, listening to their complaints. Not everything can be tackled, right? But you can at least listen to them, and that's, well, mostly half of the stuff that helps out. There's 10 tactics of managing resistance. As I said, listen, by far the most important, right? Number 2, focus on the what and let go of the how. So if you talk to people, just focus on what we're actually trying to achieve, right? And let's not talk about how to get there, because people in the beginning might not be able to or have the knowledge to actually use that system in the end. So just reassure them, we're going to focus on that. We're going to help you along the way, right? We're going to have, I hear you, right? We're going to have those training sessions, perhaps not in this thing here, in this project, but aside from it, right? Remove barriers. Also a thing, as I said, people who are saying, I'm absolutely stuffed with work, I have no time for you. Have that sponsor create time for them, because I want them to be able to feel that they can be on board with this. Provide simple and clear choices and consequences. If you're not on board, this is going to happen to you, right? You're going to be made redundant. Your department is not going to be existing. The the stock price is going to tank, right? This is what's going to happen if you're not on board. Create hope. Obviously, we're now in a burning system kind of state. We want them to see that light at the end of the tunnel, right? It sounds a bit dramatic, but we want them to feel like it's going to get better if they get on board and show the benefits in a real and tangible way. Number 7 is something, if we have people that are really, really into resistance, yes, I know why, I have the time, I know what the consequences are, but I'm just not feeling it. We want those people managers to make a personal appeal, right? And it sounds a bit iffy, but saying like, well, I know you're opposed, but let's do it for me goes a long way, right? Not for me, because no one trusts me, but from the people managers who are the preferred centers, right? Converting the strongest dissenters is also a great tactic. If you have poison pills in your company, please onboard them as fast as possible to your pilot group, because they will shout, right? Those the strongest dissenters are usually the most vocal people. They will tell everyone how shit your system is, right? But we want to listen to them. We want them to get on board. We want to obviously tackle them or give them reasoning why we're changing this. They are the most vocal people. If we can convert them, they will also be the most vocal people on the good side, right? Because they will tell everyone that all the people that have the similar complaints, like, no, I know, but I was there in that pilot group and that is handled, right? So that is really, yeah, that's really nice. Demonstrate consequences at some point. If people really do not want to listen, there's only the stick left, right? There's the carrot and the stick, there's only the stick left. I can't fire them, I can't transfer them, I can't do anything about it, but talk to your sponsor and your people manager about consequences, right? And in the end, there's also, and it's positioned at the absolute last, because I think it's a stupid reason or stupid way of managing resistance, but you can provide incentives, right? For example, give them more money if they're getting on board. Give them a promotion, provide incentives in that way. Give them a few extra days of leave. I think that is a weird way of managing resistance because it only works for a very short period of time, right? You should try to get all of these other things done before you can actually provide incentive. So how does that work in practice? If we look at a project, this is usually what we do. We have a kickoff, we have a plan, we have a design, develop, deploy, and then finally at some point we usually have a sustain phase. This is where we plot our activities, right? So in the initiation, in the planning, we're mapping that on the prepare approach phase. The managing change is aligned with design, develop, and deploy. And you can see that the awareness and the desire starts really early on. At some point, we're developing stuff. We're developing manuals, we're doing training, we're doing demos, we're trying to work on the ability. And the ability needs to be done before we actually go live, right? So in reality, it's going to be a bit to the left, but it's going to be before we actually go and deploy. And that is a nice, clear picture that we paint here, because that is not the point when we are done with our successful change project, right? It's not handing over the keys and saying, well, good luck, right? Call me whenever you got a problem. That is not how you achieve successful results. You want to be able to stay on a little bit to make sure that people are sustaining that change, to reinforce that change, right? We have all of these tools, and as I said, you probably start out with some red at risk triangle. We're trying to create that big green triangle at the end. We want to put that thermometer in the project a bunch of times, not just on the organizational level, but also on the individual level. And we want to make that change management process transparent. We want everyone to see how we are progressing, right? And I'm saying that because that helps. Making it transparent where we are in the change process, how good we are changing as a whole or as a department, helps get people on board, right? Give you an example. If Karen from accounting, who's an old lady, who's not on board with anything, she's always the most negative person you come across. if I can convert that dissenter in my group, right, and she's on board, and I get her to be able to get it and to work the system, that means that everyone else who are always saying, well, if Karen from accounting can do it, that old hag, then I should be able to do this as well, right? So just being transparent in where everyone is in their change journey helps people to get on board, get some little competition in, friendly competition, obviously. That works really well. Put it on a big screen. Put it on a tab in Teams. It all works just fine. Prosci has dashboarding out of the box available for this. Right? It's really nice. You can actually see what the outcome results are on average by department, etc. When are the communication things are going to take place? Really nice. In practice, in reality, we see that we usually work in a more agile state and more agile projects where we do sprints. And of course, in this change, we have the awareness and desire at the front. We have the resistance at the end, but we try to do that knowledge and ability every time we do a sprint. Right? Every time we do something, we try to do new demos, we try to do new ability, test if people are on board with this, if they can handle this, and do it over and over again. By doing this, you will include people in the project. People will be much more happy with them being included, listening to them, right? Having the conversation. Are you able to actually use this when we launch, right? So this works really, really well. So as I said, there's 3 things that we can do to actually make this change happen more smoothly. Do the organizational performance change, the PCT triangle, have that conversation with your sponsor over and over again, check in with them. Are we on board? Do we need some steering? Do we need to adjust our course? That is what happens in the organizational performance. In the individual performance, as I said, we want to measure that awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement on a personal level. And obviously, you can report it on average per group. And on the change management side, you want to make transparent how far along are you? Are we actually getting those right outcomes? And as I said, please, please, please know that sustaining is critical to achieving success, right? If we're really good at doing this stuff, and then we flip the switch or give them the keys, right? Transfer the ownership, and then we leave. But that is a whole world of change after that moment. And it's also weird for most of the customers that I talk to, like, oh, well, you're done, right? Everyone is going to leave. I don't have to pay you. The project is done. The budget is frozen. Please make sure that you correspond, that you communicate with your stakeholders early on that you want to stay behind and help sustain that outcome. Because that is what is really a big part of that successful change. And that ends up in very happy users, right? That's what we want to get, very happy users. Well, not these people, these are creepy, but very happy users at our customers. Any questions is a good, well, there's no one here because we're re-recording this session. But if you have any questions, please do drop me a message. That can be on Teams, that can go through Sarah, that can go into my DMs in LinkedIn. I will leave that Excel in those fillable PDFs with Sarah, so she can put it in the comments underneath the recording. And please, if you need something more, if you want to bounce some ideas, please. There, I'm happy to help. Please follow. And then I want to thank Sarah for giving me the opportunity to re-record this after dropping out yesterday. I hope you could follow along better now, Sarah, than we did yesterday.
Oh no, that was brilliant, really interesting as well. Actually, I've enjoyed it. Personal performance for me and Liz, but yeah, no, that was really great. And thanks for taking the time to re-record it again, because we had, this was requested. People had been talking about this presentation, and some of the regular attendees to the events had specifically asked that we get this on a virtual platform. So yeah, there's people waiting for this recording. So thanks very much for doing it again. Yeah. Okay. Well, have a great weekend. I'll speak to you soon.
Have a great weekend. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Take care. Bye now.